They broke into a hotel, planted microphones, stole documents, and tried to cover it up. When they were caught, it led to the fall of a president. For decades, this story has been told in a simple way. A man who abused his power. A president who spied on his enemies and paid the price. But there is one detail almost no one talks about. Because years before Watergate, this had already happened. Another president had already used surveillance against a political rival. And the man being watched was Richard Nixon. June 17th, 1972, Washington, D.C. Inside the headquarters of the Democratic Party, 5 men are arrested, caught in the act, inside the Watergate complex. At first, it seems small, almost insignificant, a failed break-in. But then, something changes, because the men are not random. They are connected to money, to power, to the president's campaign. And suddenly, this is no longer a crime. It is a story that begins to grow, day by day, leak by leak, until it reaches the White House itself. As journalists begin investigating, a pattern appears, not one operation, but many. Secret units, covert actions, surveillance. Inside the White House, there was even a system of recordings, installed by Nixon himself. Every conversation, every meeting, every decision captured. But to understand this story, we need to go back. 1968. The United States is deeply divided. The Vietnam War is escalating. Peace negotiations are underway. And the outcome of those talks could shape the election. At that moment, President Lyndon B. Johnson receives intelligence, intercepted communications, signals suggesting that people connected to Richard Nixon's campaign were in contact with South Vietnamese officials, encouraging them to delay negotiations, to wait, because if peace came before the election, it could strengthen Johnson's position and weaken Nixon's chances of becoming president. In other words, ending the war might cost Nixon the election, and continuing it might help him win. Johnson knew this. In a private call with Senator Everett Dirksen, he said,
and he says that you must hold out, that just hold on until after the election. We're pretty well informed on both ends. Some of our folks, including some of the old China lobby, are going to the Vietnamese embassy and saying, please notify the president that if he'll hold out till November the 2nd, they could get a better deal. Now, I'm reading their hand, Everett. I don't want to get this in the campaign. That's right. And they oughtn't to be doing this. This is treason. I know. This is treason.
They're contacting a foreign power in the middle of a war. This is treason. And even more telling, I know who they're talking to, and I know what they're saying. So, he wasn't guessing. He knew. But he also knew the stakes, not just political, but human. Because every delay meant more time, more fighting, more lives. And yet, he did not go public. No press conference, no accusation, no exposure. Because doing so would have revealed something else. How that information was obtained. And in that moment, Johnson made a choice to protect the secrecy of the system, even if it meant remaining silent. And silence also had consequences. So, if surveillance already existed, if even a president had used it against a political rival, why did Watergate become a national scandal? Because there was a difference, and it mattered. Johnson's actions remained hidden. Nixon's actions were exposed. And once it became visible, everything changed. Richard Nixon believed he was surrounded by enemies, the media, political opponents, even people inside the government. He believed information was being used against him, and instead of stepping back, he chose something else. Control, to know more, to see more, to stay ahead. But in doing so, he expanded the very system he feared. Surveillance itself was not new, but something about Watergate was different. It was not about war, not about foreign threats. It was political, direct, personal, and most importantly, it was exposed. Because once exposed, it could no longer be controlled. Not by Nixon, not by the White House. The same system he tried to use was now turning against him. Leaks, sources, investigations. Information was no longer his. Investigations intensify. Journalists continue digging. Inside the administration, pressure grows. And then, the tapes, recordings that Nixon himself had created. What was meant to protect him now reveals the truth. August 1974. Richard Nixon resigns, the first and only U.S. president to do so. So, the question remains, why Nixon? Why did he fall when similar methods had existed before him? Part of the answer is timing. By the 1970s, trust in government was already breaking. The Vietnam War, public protests, leaked secrets, the system was under pressure. And when Watergate happened, it became a symbol, not just of one man, but of something larger. Nixon did not create the system he used. He stepped into it, but he pushed it further, used it more directly, more openly, and most importantly, he failed to contain it. For decades, Watergate has been remembered as a story about one man, a president who went too far. But perhaps the real story is something else. Because if surveillance existed before Nixon and continued after him, maybe the question is not what he did, but why he was the one who could not survive it. So what do you think? Was Nixon the problem? Or was he the one who got caught doing what others had already done?